What if the most profound teacher of inner peace wasn't someone in robes or silence, but someone who once led a revolution? What if the true path to mindfulness isn't avoiding struggle, but walking straight through it with courage, clarity, and compassion? And what if one of the greatest examples of mindful leadership didn't come from ancient texts, but from a man who changed history by living humbly, choosing patience, and serving something greater than himself? This is not just the story of a politician. It's not just the tale of a hero. It's the journey of Ho Chi Minh, told through the lens of wisdom, presence, and strength that grows in stillness, not noise. He once said, "Nothing is more precious than independence and freedom." But that truth was not a slogan. It was his way of life. Because true independence isn't just freedom from chains. It's freedom from ego, freedom from fear, freedom from the belief that power must shout to be heard. Today on Mindful Way TV, we invite you to go deeper than the headlines. We'll explore 5 powerful moments from Ho Chi Minh's life, not for their grandeur, but for their grace. Moments that show us a quiet strength that rarely makes the front page, but forever changes those who witness it. But before we begin that journey, we need to understand the world he was born into. To truly grasp the courage of his choices, we must go back to Vietnam at the turn of the 20th century. This was a nation under French colonial rule, a country rich in spirit and culture, but silenced by occupation. Its people were stripped of rights, its land exploited, and its voice suppressed. The elite either cooperated with colonial powers or argued over old philosophies, unable to act. Meanwhile, a generation of youth watched their future slip away, disillusioned, divided, desperate. In that heavy silence, a spark formed. A young boy named Nguyen Sinh Kung, who would later become Ho Chi Minh, began to see the truth, that a broken nation could not be repaired with old tools, that shouting was not enough, that violence was not enough, that what Vietnam needed was vision, patience, and a revolution not just of power, but of purpose. Part 1, the journey begins, letting go of the old way. At a time when many patriots stayed home, clinging to traditions and theories, Ho Chi Minh did the opposite. He left, not to run away, but to seek understanding. He washed dishes in Paris, slept in workers' rooms in London, walked the streets of foreign cities alone, asking questions that echoed far beyond politics. What truly sets a nation free? He didn't chase headlines. He didn't fight for attention. He studied. He listened. He watched. That was not weakness. That was wisdom. Because sometimes the most mindful thing you can do is not rush forward in fire, but step back into stillness and see what others miss. Part 2, the power of the pen, planting seeds silently. In the first part of our journey, we followed Ho Chi Minh as he stepped away from the familiar, venturing into unknown lands, not with weapons, but with questions. Now we move into a quieter phase of his mission, one that may not echo with noise, but is no less revolutionary. While others raised banners and marched with chants, Ho Chi Minh chose a different weapon, the written word. He started newspapers in multiple languages. He wrote under dozens of pen names, sometimes in French, sometimes in Vietnamese, and often in subtle coded language that avoided censorship, yet pierced directly into the heart of the reader. But these weren't just articles. They were sparks. Each piece he wrote wasn't crafted to incite panic or provoke outrage. Instead, they were meant to awaken something deeper, a sense of identity, of purpose, of collective strength. He didn't scream to be heard. He whispered to be understood. Because Ho Chi Minh believed something powerful. True transformation starts in the mind before it moves the masses. His words carried seeds, quiet, deliberate, and intentional. Not meant to explode, but to grow. Not to stir chaos, but to cultivate consciousness. One article, one sentence, one idea placed gently into the soil of a struggling nation. That's mindfulness in motion. It's the patience to let ideas take root. It's the discipline to trust the slow, steady process of change. And as we prepare to enter the next chapter of his story, we'll see how that inner patience carried him through the most difficult of trials, not with force, but with faith. Part 3, the wisdom of endurance, finding peace. Even in chains. In our last reflection, we saw how Ho Chi Minh used words instead of weapons, planting quiet seeds that would one day grow into revolution. But even the strongest ideas must pass through trial. And for Ho Chi Minh, that trial came in the form of a prison cell. In 1942, on a mission in southern China, Ho Chi Minh was arrested by the Chinese government. Accused of espionage, he was imprisoned for more than a year. The conditions were harsh. The food was scarce. The cold nights bit through thin clothing. Disease lingered in the air. At times, he was shackled, moved from cell to cell, forgotten by the world he was trying to save. He could have surrendered to despair. He could have lost faith in everything he had stood for. But he didn't. Instead, he wrote poetry. He observed the moonlight through the prison bars. He practiced breathing deeply and remained calm in the face of pain. He smiled. In those moments of suffering, he uncovered a deeper truth. Hardship teaches resilience. A peaceful heart sees through prison walls. This wasn't just a quote, it was a choice, a daily practice. Each morning he chose to meet hardship not with hatred, but with stillness. That's the essence of mindful endurance. To carry peace even when you have every reason not to. To hold clarity when the world around you goes dark. To recognize that your freedom is not only a matter of space, but of spirit. What if strength isn't shown in resistance, but in release? What if resilience isn't about hardening, but softening into truth? As we move into the next part of his story, we'll see how this quiet resilience would become the foundation for his greatest moments of humility and leadership. Part 4, the humble victory, no ego and triumph. After enduring the chains of prison, Ho Chi Minh emerged not hardened, but even more grounded. That inner peace, cultivated in silence, would soon meet its greatest test, not in loss, but in victory. When Vietnam declared its independence in 1945, it was a moment that many leaders might have used to elevate themselves. Parades could have been held, statues could have been erected, a palace could have been claimed. But Ho Chi Minh chose something else. He didn't move into a grand estate. He chose a modest stilt house tucked behind the presidential palace. A simple wooden structure raised above the ground, just like the homes of rural farmers. He wore the same plain clothes, ate simple meals of boiled vegetables and rice, slept on a bamboo bed with no luxury in sight. This wasn't for show, it was who he was. Because for Ho Chi Minh, leadership was not a throne. It was a responsibility, not a right to be served, but a chance to serve. He understood that symbols matter, and in every quiet, humble choice he made, he was sending a message to his people. I am one of you, and I will not rise above you. I will rise with you. That's not just humility, that's mindful leadership. True mindfulness is not about proving worth. It's about remembering your why you started, why you serve, why it matters. As we transition into the final chapter, we'll witness the ultimate expression of that mindfulness, not in how Ho Chi Minh lived, but in how he prepared to say goodbye. Part 5, the final lesson, living until the last breath. After a lifetime of choosing humility over glory, service over status, Ho Chi Minh's final years were no different. His body aged, but his spirit remained clear, focused, and deeply committed to the path he had walked for decades. Even as illness began to weaken him, he did not slow down. He continued to work quietly from his simple home, writing letters, offering guidance, and reviewing plans for the nation's future. His voice may have softened, but his presence only deepened. At a time when many would retreat inward, he looked outward. He asked not what he needed, but what the people still needed from him. And then he did something remarkable. He wrote his will, not with sorrow nor with fear, but with calm, clarity, and an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the people, for the revolution, for the journey. He didn't see death as a failure or a punishment. He saw it as a final contribution. Because for Ho Chi Minh, even letting go was an act of leadership, an act of mindfulness, a quiet offering of his entire being to a cause greater than himself, to die as he had lived, with presence, purpose, and peace. And isn't that the highest lesson of all? That mindfulness isn't just how we begin each day, but how we end it. As we prepare for the final reflection in this episode, we invite you to carry Ho Chi Minh's quiet strength with you, not only as history, but as inspiration for how you live, lead, and let go. So when Ho Chi Minh said, "Nothing is more precious than independence and freedom," he wasn't just speaking to a nation's struggle. He was pointing to a path each of us must walk inside ourselves. Because true freedom isn't just about borders. It's about breaking free from the noise within. Freedom from the pressure to be everything. Freedom from reacting on impulse. Freedom from forgetting what truly matters. And that is the heart of mindfulness. Ho Chi Minh's life teaches us that clarity isn't found by escaping chaos, but by learning to breathe through it. That purpose doesn't come from ambition, but from service. That leadership isn't about control, but about presence. At Mindful Way TV, this is what we believe too. We believe in quiet strength, in slow wisdom, in everyday revolutions of the spirit. If this story touched something in you, pause, let it echo, then share it with someone who's carrying a silent burden, someone who's strong but tired, focused but overwhelmed, someone like you or someone you love. And if you're still searching for your breath, your peace, your way, know that this space was made for you. Subscribe to Mindful Way TV, where healing is honest, wisdom is quiet, and truth moves gently through story. Until next time, breathe slowly, walk lightly, and always stay mindful, stay true.